Ja, tasty Pelletarianus, Money Diskeys initially, Billigana Buster's team, Kimachini Dasache, Billigana Nationale. Welcome back to Resball, where Andy and I finally return to talk about coaching decisions as well as what could go on into the future at the forward position. So let's get started right about now. So I goofed and I forgot my microphone tonight. So if the audio turns out funky in the editing process, I did my best, people. So hopefully the audio on this will be all right. But Andy, before we get started, let everybody know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan. And it's been an interesting stretch. The Pistons lost some games and we thought like this, or at least some people thought the sky was falling, and then they won some games and who knows what it all means.
Yeah, 4 game losing streak. SARS dealt with some injury stuff. Yeah, it's been a weird post All-Star break because some of the things that we've been talking about, like the lack of shooting, like who really is the number two during not averaging a shot block a game anymore. I think he went what, like 5 games with zeros in the block column, I think was the longest it went. So yeah, a lot of funky things. Dude, I haven't really decided what to title this podcast yet, other than like coaching question mark. But I want to lead this off with a question from D, our number one commenter over at Spotify. So shout out to D. I meant to bring this up during the State of the Pistons, but actually I'm glad we stopped to do it now, because I think this question opens up some of the things we'll talk about today with coaching. So D's question for us is, if Asar and Ron can work together in the future as the starting wings for this team. So D wants to know if Asar and Ron can work together as the starting wings for this team. Offense in the half court is a big concern, and neither is big enough, in my opinion, to play power forward. If they can't work together, should they trade one of them guys? Thanks, guys. Thank you, D, for your question. So Andy, what do you think about that with Asar and Ron playing the wings? So D is asking, can they one of them play shooting guard? Can one of them play small forward? Can they play together? Is really like the overall question with this. And a little bit with like, do you think maybe one of them should play power forward there? D obviously thinks neither of them are really fit for power forward. Ron's kind of played power forward, like in the second unit pretty much, right? Your thoughts on Ron and Asar and their future together with the Pistons?
I don't know. Like I know, but with our coach, I don't know because I would say that Asar is like a cornerstone of this team, but sometimes the way JB treats his minutes or pulls them out at the to close games, sometimes you wonder if he thinks he's as important. And I would have to say that he trusts Ron even less in terms of playing those minutes. And for me, like a good indicator was when Asar was hurt. Ron didn't get the starts. You know, he came up with a whole different. I mean, when Cade was out and Asar was out, he decided to go with Jenkins and Sasser, which I thought was like a pretty big curveball. But it's like I just don't see JB having that confidence in them. Um, maybe maybe something changes in the off season, or Ron develops his 3-point shot, because at this point the way things are going, I don't have faith in Asar developing an outside shot at all, just because he's not taking them. If you're not taking them, you're not going to develop that shot. I believe they could play together. However, with JB, I don't think that's a plan. And honestly, if things don't go well in the playoffs, I could see them moving off one of them for something that fits better.
That last point hurts me so, because we definitely believe in both Ron and Asar being like integral to the defensive infrastructure of this. But let me give you an idea of what Andy is saying. If you're not watching us on YouTube, I pulled up Cleaning Glass, and one of the things they track for each player is the lineups, what lineups they're a part of. This is all of Ron Holland's lineups here. So all these lineups I'm putting on the screen have Ron Holland in them. Andy, how many do you see with A. Thompson in them?
I see one.
Two. And the number one or
Yep.
the top lineup with Asar and Ron, and how many possessions has it had?
64?
How many possessions are in a game?
Oh, close to 100? Does that sound about right?
So we don't even really have a game's worth of possessions for both of these guys. This is just a very good indicator as to what Eddie's saying about not only JB not trusting them and not trusting Ron, but not trusting these two together. Like, there's no data on them putting them together, and JB has clearly made it a thing that he's not going to play Asar and Ron together, at least for this season.
Can you get a
Said a
little
lot of,
closer to your mic?
oh yes, sorry. Do you need me to repeat anything?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat that again.
So yeah, Andy, just brought this up. JB definitely doesn't trust Asar. The other thing a JB doesn't trust is Asar and Ron together. We don't even have like a full game's worth of possessions with a lineup that has Ron and Asar for this season. And maybe you can argue that, like, yes, to develop them for next season or the season after. But what film and what indications do we have that that is the long term plan? You just said it. Ron didn't get starts when Asar went out. So there's still a lack of trust there. And the other thing you just brought up is the lack of 3-point shooting. Has either guy or what would you say about both either Ron or Asar's 3-point shot and the development, quote unquote, of them? If you had to like write a report for somebody who's like, hey, how's Asar and Ron? And they're like, oh, I specifically want to know about the 3-point shot and the development they've had this season, what would you say?
I would say that Ron started off confident shooting the three, and then at some point he lost his confidence, and maybe the plan changed where he's not supposed to put up as many. He will still shoot it though, which for me gives me confidence. With Asar, I mean, I think he's averaging less than half an attempt a game. Like it's basically game over with Asar even trying to shoot threes. And as we've talked about, like for a couple seasons already, we can't let that has to be the thing that you couldn't allow to happen is that he doesn't shoot them at all. Because now it just becomes a huge issue where he just doesn't shoot them. It's like game over.
Yeah, as I brought up with the state of the Pistons, there's 2 non-shooters in the starting lineup, like guys that don't even attempt threes. Jalen Duren, Ausar Thompson. If I
A little closer.
so if I had to, yeah, there's as I brought up in the state of the Pistons, we have 2 non-shooters in the starting lineup. Guys that are zeros that don't take threes, and Jalen Duren and Ausar. If I had to write this report on like, hey, what's their Ron Holland and Ausar Thompson, how's their 3-point development going? It would just be 2 words. It sucks. If I had to give individual reports for it, it's there's glimpse and glimmer of hope with Ron's free throw percentage, which has been in the 80s consistently, and the fact that he still takes them. With Asar, I would say I think the coaching staff has given up on that, and I think we might have passed the precipice where they're just like, "Forget it. We're not gonna ever ask him to shoot. We don't want him to shoot. It's not part of the offense." How many threes has Asar taken us this I almost said semester, I'm still stuck in teaching mode. How many, threes has Asar taken this season?
I'll say 37.
Let's go into basketball reference. On the Pistons page here, and the total for Asar from the 3-point range, Asar for the entire season in 58 games has taken 22 3-point attempts. Yeah. Um, I'm sorry, D, this is like a hard question because there's what we believe. I also think what we believe is pretty much like the consensus from Amy Smart basketball people of like, of course, Ron and Asar are going to be a long term major part of the rotation. Maybe they don't start together, right? But they both fit the identity of what this team wants, which is push the pace, focus on smothering defense, and just play with a lot of fight and energy. I mean, Ron at one point was leading the league in steal percentage, right? And he's still up there. He creates so many turnovers. Ausar can guard from point guard all the way to some power forwards. Ron is getting better in that regard, and they just are such versatile defenders and guys in transition to that create easy opportunities, either creating turnovers for like the pick six or just getting out and running with Cade. But why you haven't surrounded him with 3-point shooters from the jump is, bad team building. Why you haven't forced them to shoot threes. And this goes back to last year, where at the end of the year, we were like, this was the get out of the jail free card year, right? It just seemed like that year they messed up in terms of development. It seemed like that was the year to be like Asar fire away, Ron fire away, because now they're in a spot where they can't do that anymore, right? Um, so yeah, we think they are, and they could, but based off of what JB's done, unfortunately, Mhm. Well, I think Andy's right that like there might be signs pointing towards the team trading one of them or the other. I personally think the answer is trading Jalen Duren for a stretch five, but I mean, we'll come back to that later in the offseason. I want to give Duren like the benefit of the doubt for the rest of the season and then pull numbers from the whole point, because we didn't really pull all his stuff until halfway point. So fair to him to pull it all the way at the end too. Um, but yeah, it's weird both in terms of the decision makers, GMs, Troy Weaver, Trajan Langdon, who are like, I'm going to take these athletic, defensive leaning guys who are offensive liabilities right now, and then not surrounding them with an infrastructure of shooting and stuff to help them out and grow, and also at the same time not giving them a development system that force them to shoot and do uncomfortable things right now to develop further on down the line. And with Asar, it's more worrisome. My comp for him always was Andre Iguodala coming out of the draft, but now I'm like, I don't know if that would be the case, because Dre at least shot threes. He only took like one or two a game, but he didn't take 22 in 58 games like that. Yeah, the Asar part is weird of it. And the other weird part of this equation, what's the point of having Fred Vinson, Andy?
Well, he was supposed to do wonders for our shooting percentages. Um, what Pistons player has improved their 3-point shooting significantly?
Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been Ivy.
It so actually, Ivy would be the only one that you could say has, like, improved his three-point shooting. Um, Cade recently has been shooting better, but he's someone who, we
He shot like 40% in college, though.
yeah, but that's what I was gonna say is that he's someone that we always assumed would figure out three-point shooting. Um, but there really hasn't been any three-point shooting improvement.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily like Fred Vincent is junk and he's not really a shooting guru. I mean, he worked in New Orleans, right? Herb Jones, Lonzo Ball, refining with Trey Murphy and all those guys down there. Um, so it's not a knock on him. This is a knock on the organization of the Pistons, I guess, from the GM to the whatever structure of the coaching staff is. Like, that's the Fred Benson was hired before JB Bickerstaff. He was hired before any coach on this team, because Trajan brought him over from the Pelicans, and everybody who knows anything about the NBA knows that Fred Benson's MO is being one of the best shooting coaches in the league. And so far, there's nothing to show for it. And really, with Ron and Asar, there's regression. You know who else has regressed? And I think it's more from, this is where I will point the finger at JB. Um, who else has shown regression in terms of shooting? Due specifically to JB,
Stu?
Isaiah Stewart, right? When's the last time he even took a 3-pointer?
Um, I'm pretty sure he took one or two in the last couple of games, but he earlier in the season he had an area or a time when he was getting up more shots, but that has also regressed. And even in a couple of the games, it seems like he's been hesitant to shoot them, even when he's open, which for me is always a concern because he was one of our better 3-point shooters.
Yeah, since let's see, January 23rd, there's only one game where Stu's taken more than 2 3-pointers in a game. And so even then, since January 23rd, let's see, Stu has knocked down a total of 6 threes. It's just like, what's going on with these coaching decisions? I mean, that segues into what we want to talk about here. More and more people are starting to catch up to this. If you listen to Sports Illustrated NBA show, Chris Mannix, Rachel Nichols just did a thing last week saying they don't think the Pistons are the favorites anymore, and that there's, you know, things in the armor. And both of them brought up points that any of us who've been saying this for over a year, Steve Hinson, shout out Scott, the Slack chat, a bunch of dudes over at DBB. Um, I know like Jack's brought it up a couple times during the off season. Shout out Lance Capriosi. We talked about it a lot. Is like the shooting is going to catch up to them eventually. That's a lot of what kind of the national media, and there's been more YouTube videos showing up with that too, as well as like what the Raptors just did. So we're recording this on March 16th, 2026, the last game the Pistons played were against the Raptors. And I just saw a YouTube video. I'll look up the creator, and he broke down that game of like the way the Raptors beat the Pistons is just by saying, all right, we'll just smother Cade and dare anybody else to defeat us because this team can't shoot threes and there's no other real secondary ball handler or creator. And I think that game didn't have Dennis Jenkins in it either, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just like you're not supposed to show all of your cards during the regular season, but you are supposed to show multiple things, multiple lineups, and show you can do other things when you face the adversity in the playoffs. And it's all starting to snowball between no more threes for Asar, Ron and Asar not, being pushed to develop a 3-point more, Stu's threes becoming less and less of a thing. And meanwhile, Kate's still handling the load. And sure, Duran's scoring more points, but at the same time, and his blocks are going down, his defense is suffering. Kevin Herter's supposed to be shooting threes. And then the things I've brought up here for talking points in terms of like JB's decisions are Sasser's like come in and really showed from three, but then he's kind of like in and out. Like I don't really know if they think he's a piece or if they just kind of tried him out now. And why is Karras here anymore? I don't know what even to say anymore on that regard. Um, and they kind of play Herter somewhat. It's like they'll play him and then be like, go to the bench. And then like a few more games later, they're like, oh yeah, we remember we have him. Let's get him going. And then again, he's gone for a while again. And I know there's an injury with Asar, but I'm starting to feel like, does JB just not trust Asar? Because there've been some weirdness lately. It just seems like there's a de-emphasis on Asar in this post All-Star break Pistons. I don't know if this is me, but those have been my feelings anyway. Your floor is yours, Andy, for all these weird decisions.
Um, like normally I would track the rotation every game, and I stopped after like 20 games just because it was just weird. It was weird and wonky, and I didn't understand kind of the rationale or the logic because every coach gets into a rhythm as far as who comes in for who at what time, and that's how you end up with teams that have certain lineups that play the majority of the minutes on the team. And outside of the starting lineup, the Pistons really don't have that. And sometimes I don't understand why a player was playing and then he kind of like disappears. Like the Pistons had a losing streak and Dennis Jenkins was playing bad, really bad. A lot of the Pistons were playing bad, but then they had 3 games in a row that they won and Danis was playing better. And even if he's not playing great, if you look at assists, and assists isn't, the only stat, but he's the only other Piston besides Cade who really gets assists moving the ball. And even if you don't look at the assist stats, he's really the only one that keeps an offense running. Even when Karras does score, there's too many times where the possession is just weird. And sure, he got a bucket out of it, but it's not a process that you're like, oh, I'm confident in this process. It's like all kinds of things happen. Sometimes he breaks things down, sometimes he makes some shots, and sometimes he throws the ball into the third row. Like it's just very random, and there's not like a system in place. And the reason why I'm bringing up Dennis Jenkins is because in the last game, he got a DMP coach's decision. And it's like, we against the Raptors, who typically they're, just a longer defensive team, like we have to move the ball against them. And the team had issues scoring, which isn't a surprise if you don't have a backup point guard running your offense. And I mean, I think anyone would have said, okay, Karras or Herter, who do you want on the court? But not Karras and Herter. Like, not both of them at the same time. It's because neither one of them are point guards. And then if you're going to throw Sasser out there, we already know he's not a point guard. Use him as a floor spacer, let him shoot. So there's just all kinds of things where I just don't understand the logic of why. And maybe the reason why Sasser is getting playing time right now is because maybe JB is starting to panic on the 3-point shooting. And he's just like, Sasser's the best 3-point shooter we get on the team by percentage. Like, let's just give him some minutes. But it's like, really? We're going to do this like 60 games into the season? Like, we've had like 60 games to kind of figure things out. Or even a guy you have playing in the G League right now who you drafted in the second round, who's actually a decent sized player, who's a shooter. Like we could have been giving him some minutes earlier in the season, but it's kind of like, and this is where, and this happened last year where they've kind of been a victim, like you said, of their own success, where it's like now they've won all these games and they're trying to keep winning all these games. And we missed an opportunity for players to learn and develop certain things. And in the end, in the long run, I think that's going to end up costing us. Like earlier in the season, Ausar was getting like backup point guard and ball handling minutes. There's times when that's like completely disappeared. So I just don't know. A lot of question marks.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna get roasted for this. I know it'd be weird, and I've talked to Andy about this a lot on offline, so he's not gonna be surprised by this, but I'm pretty much ready to fire JB just because I don't again, not pushing the guys to do more is inexcusable to me. The thought of not making a big move at the trade deadline is we're good enough, right? Right?
Um, I think they said we want to see what we have in the playoffs, but that's for me, that's not good.
Yeah. It's also another thing, like a couple different places, and the Rachel Nichols, Chris Mannix both said it's like I wonder if the Pistons regret not making more moves at the trade deadline, which I'm like, yeah, because this idea of like we'll just see how good we are, I'm like you're number one in the standings. Like to say, oh, let's see how good we are, like that's stupid. You're number one. You've been number one all season, right? If you're unsure of how good you are, you don't understand why I'm frustrated. Like that logic doesn't make sense.
Well, I think the team that had a better record than them, Oklahoma City Thunder, they made a move at the deadline, which was a move that made them better. And for the Pistons, what doesn't make sense to me is even with his injuries and his problems, Jaden Ivey still had the third highest 3-point percentage on this team, a team that was struggling to shoot from three. And how are you going to replace him with someone who's shooting an even lower percentage for the last few years? Like, that makes zero, like, your 3-point shooting got worse at the trade deadline. It did not improve, which everyone would say they had to improve it. No, they made it worse. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, yeah. And for a team that just struggles shooting, yeah, I still think it's just it's still inexcusable. It's inexcusable. And more people are starting to catch on to that. But not only that, but then you don't add anything that's going to alleviate your 3-point concerns. Like no Corey Kispert, no Keon Ellis, no somebody that just shoots threes. It's just it's weird, and the whole thing of like, well, let's just see how good we are in the playoffs. I'm like, what's the point behind that? The only reason you do that is because you're like, okay, we'll have the ability to fill in either in free agency or trade wise, right? Sure, they get all their picks back. Free agency, if you've been a Detroit fan a long time, that's not going to happen. And if it does happen, Josh Smith, Ben Gordon, Charlie Villanueva, that's always what happens, right? Overpaying for talent that doesn't always work out. Um, it's just it's frustrating because we don't understand these coaching decisions. The move or lack of moves that happened at the trade deadline didn't bring in anything to help alleviate these concerns, and we're just anticipating the playoffs. Everybody is anticipating the playoffs, and that's just why it's been hard to come up with stuff for this show, to be quite honest, between the both of us, Andy and I, because we feel like we're repeating ourselves, and that a lot of this will either come to fruition in the playoffs or it won't matter. And
Your volume's low again.
yeah, yeah, and this is what that team is built towards, is like everything they do right now really doesn't matter because they've already built up enough of a cushion to know they're in the top 3 in their conference. And now their idea is like, okay, let's see how far we can go. Which to me, again, it goes back to my whole thing of like Trajan should be proactive GM rather than a reactive GM, because now it's adjusting off of things like what you're seeing now with the lack of 3-point shooting, Ron and Star not really developing. That's why I say, to me, I've been more of like, yeah, I think JB's got to go, because I do think there needs to be a coach that not only pushes the guys more, but can adjust and do other things, and maybe even kind of needle the GM to be like, hey, we need a guy that just bombs from three. Like, hey, we need another guy that does like this. Um, yeah, it's been frustrating to say the least. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, Andy.
So, I mean, one thing that I will look at is, or try to figure out is, are Trajan and JB aligned in, like, Karis LeVert? Like, do both of them, does Trajan feel like, yeah, LeVert was the guy, and JB's like, yeah, that was the guy we needed. And even though the numbers show that he's not, they were both like, no, that's why we're doing so good this year, because we got him and he's playing in this role and he's doing that. Or is LeVert getting all this playing time because of JB, and Trajan wasn't that high on him? Because the thing is I don't think they could move LeVert at the trade deadline. Like, I don't think anyone else really wanted him. He still has another year on his contract, and I don't think they wanted to attach any assets to move him. So it just became something where it's like, no, we're gonna have to, like, keep him. And maybe they honestly looked at Herder, as Herder was an upgrade over LeVert, at least to deal with that right now. But if that's the case, and that he was an upgrade, then LeVert shouldn't be playing. Herder should be playing. But that's not what they're doing either. So that's where it's like, I'm just confused as to who really likes the players that are playing, and why.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of synthesize everything we're saying, like everything you see now should be geared towards getting them ready for the playoffs. Mm. But everything we're seeing is just brings more confusion, right? Like none of this is helping to get ready for the playoffs. You still have the same problems, but then shuffling Sasser, Herter, Karras. I'm like, you really, yeah, that's really like how you're gonna help yourself in the playoffs. Like you got to be out of your mind.
Yeah. And again, like we said it earlier, it's like this would have been stuff that we would have liked to have seen like game 20 through 40, like doing stuff like this. But now it's like other teams are trying to figure out like, okay, what is our 7 to 8 man playoff rotation? What is it that we're doing? And we're playing freaking 11 players and giving Dennis a DMP. It's like we're farther from figuring out what we are going to do, which maybe in JB's mind, it gives them a lot of flexibility that they can pick certain players based on the team they're playing against. But I I don't believe JB's that guy. That's just me.
Yeah, and also tactically, if the team is not getting to the rim, what is their shift to like have a what's their counterpunch, right? If the other up, the guys on the other end stop the Pistons from getting to the rim, what can the Pistons do to counteract that?
Nothing. Um, and this is why, like, uh, I was actually I was talking to my boys about it because they were like, "Wow, we do not look good against the Spurs," and I'm like, well, the Spurs are probably the best team designed to destroy us because we do everything at the rim. Wembanyama takes all of that away. We have no other counters. We win so many games because of Cade being amazing and Victor just completely throws a monkey wrench into where Cade wants to operate. So it's like, yeah, no, we have no counterpunch to the Spurs. Thank God there's only one team that's like the Spurs, but other teams can try to duplicate strategies to try and make it difficult.
Yeah, yeah, and then Castle, you throw Castle in there being like an all-world defender. I mean, Stephon Castle's eliminated like 2 or 3 top scorers along the way. Um, yeah, it's been a frustrating time for Piston fans because we just want to get to the playoffs. We want to see how this is, and in the meantime, why, why, why do we have to talk about Marcus Sasser and Kevin Herter? Like really, this is what's happening between now and the playoffs. Like this is torture, man. It's torture. So to circle this back to Dee's question too of Ron and Asar, if you're not building a world where your number 5 overall picks in back-to-back years, you're not building a world in which they're a big part of your team, you're doing it wrong, man. Again, anybody looking from the outside, any Piston fan is going to tell you Ron and Asar are part of the future, should be part of the future. And that's a big part of why I'm like, I think JB's got to go. He's just not building an infrastructure that's gearing towards that. Again, they don't even have a Ron and a Sar, don't even have a full game's worth of time together. Maybe the plan is for it to be next year, but my goodness, like it's just there's no trust. And even with a star, it seems like that trust is waning and no push towards developing a 3-point shot, even though you have Fred Vincent for crying out loud. Couple that in with Stu's like lack of offensive identity at all. As harsh as I've been on Duran, I am gonna kind of flip on not necessarily flip on Stu, but on the center position entirely. And we've talked about this off and on, but I do want to wait until the off season to talk about it, or at least preview in the playoffs, because like they've let Stu just completely throw his offensive game in the trash, and they've let Duran, for the most part, throw his defensive game completely in the trash. Where it's like you're paying 2 guys to be 1 complete player, which again is not normally how it works. When both guys have shown they could do more, but again, the infrastructure they build here is for them to lean into their strengths and develop that rather than push them further into developing more of their skill set on either end of the court. I think that looking at the center position, and maybe we can start to do it for next episode, is looking at that center position of like, hey, look, Duran or Stu in the 3-point shot. Oh, it's getting good. And then JB gets there and immediately it was not a thing last year. And then this year it starts to be a thing and then it's cut off again. And with Duran, it's like, oh, look, he's being a little bit more active on defense. And then all of a sudden that falls off and you have like this stretch where he's just, turned into a traffic cone again. I think that's starting to show up in a lot of different other positions where it's like, yes, they have absolutely JB and that stuff stabilized this unit. They really played into their strengths, and all these guys are super talented. Asar, Cade, Ron. That's why they've played so well. Is because they're able to maximize what they do well. But there's going to come a time where people know how to stop that, and especially in this NBA. Like, if you're not a team that can shoot threes at a high rate, yeah, I mean, no, even then, there have been teams that don't knock them down at a high rate, but come playoff time, like, that's a big thing, man. It's a big thing that just nobody's been able to overcome since the Heatles are 3 Hall of Famers. As much as I love the guys on this team, I don't think there's 3 Hall of Famers here, man. Um, so yeah, it's frustrating. A lot of frustration. Can't wait to see the playoffs. So, because all this, I mean, again, we've said it in the last episode in the Save the Pistons, they could be historically great. That's the exciting part about it is like the teams that didn't really emphasize the 3-point shot since the year 2000. There have been some that became great, and the Pistons could be one of them, but it just doesn't seem like it right now.
And maybe and maybe this is why they looked so good earlier in the year is the areas where players are weaker, they were doing better. Like when Duran was playing better defensively, this team was much better. I mean, I think there was a game earlier in the year where Stu put up 30 points or something. And it's like, and obviously, I'm not expecting him to do anything like that regularly, but just offensively, they were getting him some quick post ups and just some different things. Whereas, like, he was scoring the basketball. And when you have enough guys who are not shooters, you need scoring from everywhere. And it's just kind of really turned, and maybe this is coaches and teams adjusting, where it's basically like, no, we are going to shut Cade down and make these other guys do things that they're not comfortable doing. But it just feels, and maybe hopefully it's just the boredom of the dog days of the season, and then we'll get past this. But it's just scary that the things that we're seeing are things that we were concerned about the entire time. Just the wins kind of disguise anyone from really calling it out and pointing it out.
Yeah, the wins really disguise the lack of development. I'm gonna give you 3 examples here. I mean, Spo and Bam. Bam might be like the greatest story ever of skill progression and hard work based on, you know, a, I mean, my goodness, I remember so many people, myself included, roasted the Heat when they drafted Bam of like, he's just a rim runner, man. And then to see him break Kobe or the get second, scoring all time 83 points and his varied offensive game is because, again, Spo has pushed him and Bam pushed himself every single year to do more. And Bam is also, I think Beasley was the one who said he's a point guard in a center's body, and embracing that weirdness and letting it blossom more. Another one is Onyeka Okongwu, which I brought up a couple different times, right? Because again, another guy that like he's coming into the league, rim running center, like that's all he can do, right? But every year, chipped away at it. He's gone through, I think, 2 or 3 coaches now with Quinn Snyder, who again is another guy that emphasized the 3-point shot and emphasized skill progression. You can see his time with the Jazz and now with the Hawks. All the guys on that squad who he's helped push towards doing more. Jalen Johnson, you know, maybe not so much Dyson Daniels, but there are other guys on that squad who, again, push towards skill development and don't just pigeonhole yourself into what you are when you were drafted and be comfortable in what you are. And the last one's Will Hardy in the Jazz. I mean, I just saw Cody Williams scored 31 the other night, right? I mean, you remember Cody Williams? Everybody was like, he's going to be out of the league at the end of this year. And again, pushing them to be able to do a bunch of different things. I mean, that whole roster from my guy Keontae George to, Bryce Sensabaugh, again, it's pushing the guys to do more than whatever their skill set might be and having actual skill development and progression to do things with them to where they can grow their game and become more diverse. And I'm so sad Walker Kessler got hurt this year because he was another guy that was starting to shoot threes this year. And that was a thing that he kind of flirted with at North Carolina. Didn't do so much when he went to Auburn. But again, it's another one where they're like, we're not content with you being the best shot blocking center in the league. I mean, he's already like breaking records. We want you to vary your game and become even better than you are so you can go get that bag and you can become more of a multi-purpose threat. There's so many other teams doing it. It's just frustrating with this Pistons squad who we've now seen 2 seasons with. And again, Ausar is the best example of this because it's not only regressing, it's eliminated. Like this one area in your game where you could grow, it's like, nope, we don't even want you to do that.
Yeah, the the Asar thing is interesting because he has had in the last 2 seasons, he has had some, injury things. Um, and I don't know if it's him, if it's the coaching, probably a combination of the 2, but he has stretches of games where it's like he can do all these things and we get so excited. And then we have these other stretches where it's like outside of playing defense, there's nothing. Like you just see very little impact from him doing anything else. And it's just really strange.
Yeah. I mean, Will Hardy's probably the bad example though, because with the Jazz, and when you're a young coach like that, you can do whatever. It doesn't matter anyway. Your team sucks. You're supposed to be just letting these guys go out and do whatever. But Quinn Snyder and Spo, they've been trying to win since like day one. That's their MO. But they still find a way to skill develop and have a plan for these guys and let them grow year by year and continue to push them forward to do more things. Again, Jalen Johnson, another guy that like didn't shoot threes at all, but they clearly had a plan, pushed him to do more and more, became a playmaker. He's one of the best rebounders in the NBA. I mean, he might be one of the more versatile dudes up there. Um, Walking triple double too for sure. And yeah, Bam, another one. Like there's just so many Heat players where they do that. There is a way to continue to win while also developing guys. Again, it's frustrating. These things don't have to be mutually exclusive, and it's just hard. Again, to go back to Dee's question, is like, where's the development for Asar and Ron to be able to play together, and where does this lead to?
Well, the easiest solution is surround them with more shooting. Make their life easier.
Yeah.
But we didn't do that.
I remember even last year, people were like, maybe Durant should shoot threes. I'm still all for it, man. Like at this point, like if that is really something you want to do, but again, no indication that's ever going to be a thing, right? There's no Onyeka Okongwu hope right now. Um, Again, TB's done a fantastic job. I hate criticizing coaches, but I do think in terms of, developing guys and pushing them a little bit further, that's where I'm just like, man, I don't know. I don't know that this is going to get better. And again, we can only wait on the playoffs, but I still have a great feeling about it right now. Andy, do you have anything else to add before we get out of here?
Um, the only thing I'll add, and I don't want to say it, but I will, uh, is and we're at the point in the season where things drag on and we're like, just playoffs get here. But if Trajan isn't proactive and JB doesn't really adjust, we could have a couple of seasons like this before things run its course and then a new coach comes in and things are different. Um, Not to like Not to like jinx us for such a long period of time.
No, but it'll be like the Damian Lillard, Blazers. Remember they went to the Western Conference Finals, or like that Trey Young team, the Hawks that went to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it's going to be like that, right? Where it's like they're good, they have a really talented number one guy, but they're investing in the wrong people and not again who got better from that team, right?
Yeah. Yep. And again, and this is where like I am a Jalen Duren fan, but the number that you pay him is going to be critical for what you can end up building for the future of team. And that's where it's like you got to be careful because that decision can end up really locking this team into what it is for a while.
Yeah, and low key, like guys like Donovan Clean have also become more of a 3-point threat and stuff like that too. So, and Duran, if you listen to this podcast, first off, kudos to you for putting up with all the hate for me. Number two, anybody even close to Duran, start getting him to shoot threes, man, and have him force that into the team. Sure, it's gonna have struggles, but like at this point, like, that's something the team needs, and that's something to himself he's gonna need very soon because if you're in a world where Walker Kessler all of a sudden's busting threes, Donovan Clingan's getting better, Okongwu's doing what he is, like, you're gonna be behind the 8 ball, and you're gonna be viewed as a liability in a very, very fast, man. And even if you get paid, it's a big contract now, and again, there's, like, what, 10 dudes that shoot threes that do a little bit more on defense and stuff, again, you're going to be looked at as a bad contract, right? Just look at Sabonis. There is nothing Sabonis has done really from his talent and his offensive side to take away from the player he is. Nobody will discount him, but defensive liability, his threes don't really mean anything. And all of a sudden, nobody wants to pay 40 million to a guy that's like what, just a tier two below Jokic in terms of like playmaking big and scorer. Like that happens fast, man.
Yes. Yes, it does. Hopefully we see some good things in the next week so we have some things to talk about for next time.
I mean, Cade could always go Super Saiyan too, right?
What if he wasn't so amazing this year? How many less wins do we have?
30.
And yet and then how sustainable is that? Not to like doubt how good he is cuz he's good, but it's like it's just a heavy burden to carry.
Yeah. Uh, do you think they're better than where the Clippers are at, 34 and 33? Do you think without Cade, that's what Pistons might look like?
Oh, the Pistons would be worse than that.
I mean, Atlanta's 36 and 31. Do they have anybody even anywhere close to like Jalen Johnson or Nikhil?
No.
Yeah, so that, oh my gosh, they're probably like bottom of the barrel then. I mean, Charlotte's like 34 and 34. I mean, I know they don't play any defense, but my goodness, they're like fire and rockets and just the firepower that they have, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, without Cade being so unbelievable, this team is not like, and unfortunately, just because of how it's, I mean, and so for me, this is the ultimate case on how much you can pay Duran. Is if you took Cade off of this team for whatever reason, how many wins is Jalen Duran going to get you? Like, how much is he going to be scoring? Like, how much of the load can he carry? And that's where my big question mark is in terms of how much you pay him, because that's what you're paying him for. If he's the number two guy, he needs to carry a load.
He's got to start shooting threes. This is what I mean, man. If you're going to pay him, then he's got to start picking up points elsewhere, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sad. I don't know. I guess so somewhere you can say it. I don't think Cade's ever going to win MVP now. Um, just because of Wembanyama. I mean, Wembanyama could win it this year. All it takes is SGA missing a few more games. I mean, they might even catch OKC right now, right? All the we still believe Cade should be MVP. I mean, the Pistons have been in the number one spot all year, but listen, any national media coverage, Cade is not even considered at all for MVP, which is ludicrous. Um, but it's got me sad now because I'm like, oh my gosh, like what else would he have to do, right?
Yeah, and I mean, same for other players like winning defensive player of the year. Like it's gonna be difficult to beat him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that one's just there are certain players like Ben Wallace, Kevin Garnett, like you just see them and you're like, I can't give it to anybody else. I almost like that was the defensive player of the year, for sure. But yeah, Cade's gotta win an MVP, especially if he consistently keeps the team in top three like this. Yeah, it's killing me, man. It's killing me to think about that because it's like, again, why all these? I don't know. It's the frustrating part about the NBA. Again, I'm not an old head. I'm not one of these people that thinks like, you know, analytics and advanced data ruin the game, but I do think it ruined the awards, to be perfectly honest.
Oh.
Um, like the whole Rudy Gobert being based off of like defensive numbers and stuff. Meanwhile, Draymond like only won one defensive player of the year while he's the most impactful defender in the last like 20 years. Bam has never won defensive player of the year, even though like you put him in there and the team is guaranteed to be a top 5, top 10 defense every year. And in terms of like Cade for MVP, it's like I thought winning mattered. I thought being the number one team mattered, but somehow he's no longer in the conversation. Everything's come down to Jokic, SGA, and Wembanyama, and it's like, why did Cade get thrown out of this conversation now? Like, why is he not considered in this? When you bring this up, it doesn't make any sense to me. Um, and it's just frustrating because we're still talking about the struggles of the team, but they're number one. And the number one guy you just said, how good would this team be without him? Um, and why I went on the rain with like analytics and stuff is like, if you're gonna complain about Bam Adebayo's 83 points, which we're not, but I've seen so many stupid takes of like, yeah, the fouls and blah blah blah. And then the very next night, SGA breaks Will Chamberlain's consecutive records for 20-point games. And then I didn't see a single freaking person complain about that. I'm like, you know how many flops he had to get to that streak, you know? You know what I mean? It's just like, come on, man. And meanwhile, again, Cade not foul baiting, working his way to the paint the most of the time, having to carry a team that just has such a terrible 3-point shot. Meanwhile, they're in the number one spot, and all of a sudden he doesn't get any love for any of these considerations. It's just like, oh, Detroit versus everybody, man. It always rings true.
Well, I mean, we I didn't think I thought Cade could win MVP before the season started on ability, but I didn't think we'd have anywhere near the wins to justify it. So having this many wins for me is like he's got to be in the conversation. Nobody had the Pistons this good, not even close to being this good. So it's like automatically he has to be in that conversation, but he's not, which doesn't make sense.
It's ridiculous, so stupid. And I don't want to end on that note, but I don't know what else to say. Andy, let everybody know where they can find you before we get out of here.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan.
Need for MVP, please. Playoffs get here fast. We cannot wait to see what this actually looks like, who the Pistons line up against, and be able to talk shop of like, ooh, maybe this is what they'll attack, or can the Pistons do all that stuff? And please, and pray to whoever you believe in your faith, everybody stays healthy. We don't want to deal with a situation last year where the Pistons are missing key components in the playoffs. So hopefully everybody's there. Again, that's going to be the determining factor in how good the team actually is, because you never want to have that thing of like, we didn't get to see the full roster. So definitely, whatever you do, if it means they got to roll out to Lou Smith and the Motor City Cruise the rest of the way and eat like 10-game losing streak, just do it to keep everybody else, man. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. We'll catch you next time. I'm going to